In this tutorial we will train a multi-finger hand to grasp and lift a cylinder. Usually, gripper has only 1 degree of freedom, but this hand has 16. And all fingers should move in coordination to grasp an object successfully. So, it is much more difficult to train it. Now, let's see problem definition. A cylinder is placed on a cuboid. Our objective is to grasp the cylinder and lift it. In case of multi-finger hand-related training, reward shaping is very important. In this tutorial we will create 2 slightly different reward sets and compare results. Let's see rewards for the first set. The first reward is given for the hand reaching the cylinder. We define a frame transformed from the origin of a palm link. Reward is inversely proportional to distance between the cylinder and this frame. The position of this frame is set in assumption that when this frame comes to the cylinder origin, the hand will be able to grasp the cylinder by closing fingers. This frame can be visualized by setting the debug this argument to true, in the frame transformer CFG class. The second reward is given according to sum of active contact forces of each finger. Here, active means that contact force is bigger than threshold value. This reward is required to encourage the fingers to touch the cylinder. The third reward is given according to the height the cylinder is lifted on. To make sure that lifting action is present, minimal height parameter is set. Reward is given only if the cylinder is higher than minimal height. Also, to avoid the robot creating punch-like motions, height reward is multiplied by sum of active contact forces of each finger. We want the robot to pick up the cylinder vertically, and don't want it to push the cylinder around. So, we give penalty for velocity in the XY plane if the cylinder height is under the lift threshold. The fifth reward also encourages fingers to grasp the cylinder firmly. We measure distance between fingertip and cylinder. The smaller it is, the greater the reward. Because in grasping, the thumb's role is more important than the role of the other 3 fingers, we are weighting the reward for the thumb. The sixth reward encourages finger closure movement itself. But we want fingers to close when the arm is near the cylinder. So, to the mean of all finger joints angles, we multiply the distance reward term. As final 2 terms, we have action rate and joint velocity. Both of these terms prevent the robot from excessive and vibratory actions. In the second set, we have defined contact with the palm. So, we have palm contact reward. By this reward we encourage palm to contact with the cylinder. And in the finger closure reward, instead of using distance between frame and center of the cylinder, we use a Boolean value of contact information. As an additional training technique, we use curriculum. In the first part of a training, we want the arm to learn reaching the cylinder. But in the latter part of training, based on the knowledge learned in the first part, we want the arm to learn how to grasp the cylinder. So, after 40,000 steps, weight of the reaching object reward is decreased and finger closure reward is increased. Now, let's see training settings. As a rollout length, we set 48 steps per environment. Longer rollouts give better return estimates, because multi-finger hand manipulation related rewards are delayed. Very short rollouts can make PPO more myopic. Since we are doing long horizon manipulation, discount factor gamma is set to 0.99 instead of default 0.98. Number of mini batches is also important. We train 4,096 environments with 48 steps per environment. This means that we have 196,608 transitions. PPO usually benefits from somewhat noisy gradient estimates. Extremely large mini-batches produce very smooth gradients, which can actually slow policy improvement because each update changes the policy only a little. So, this time we divide obtained transition into 16 mini-batches. It gives around 12,000 samples per batch, which is a nice balance between stable gradients and enough stochasticity. The non-learning epochs parameter determines how many times PPO reuses the same collected rollout data before discarding it and collecting new experience. This is done to squeeze more learning out of the training data. But using too much epochs is also wrong because the data becomes stale. We have to remember that the rollout was generated by the old policy. After each gradient update, the policy changes. If we keep optimizing on the old rollout for too long, you're training on data that no longer reflects the current policy. This can hurt performance or even destabilize learning. Value loss coef controls how much importance PPO gives to training the critic compared to training the actor. This is one of the most important PPO hyperparameters, because the actor depends on the critic to compute good advantages. 1.0 is a common value for most frameworks. If value loss stays very high and noisy, it should be increased, and if policy improvement is slow while value loss becomes tiny, it should be decreased. Now let's run the trained models. Please download the Allegro Lift project zip file from the Google Drive and extract it to your home directory. In this folder, we have an environment configuration package and a folder in which trained models are included. Move to the manipulation directory, which is located inside the Isaac Lab directory. Paste the Lift Allegro folder here. Then, move to the RSL-RL directory and paste the trained models. Open the How to Run text file. To run the program, we just have to execute these commands. First, let's run the trained model with POM contact. As we can see, the policy manages to find a way to pick up the cylinder. But in a very strange way. This is probably partly because in our model POM link includes side and back of the hand. Now let's execute model without POM contact. The grasping of this model is much more smoother, even though it does not look like human normal grasping of a cylinder.